They say some moments haunt you forever. I used to think that was just a saying, until it happened to me. It's been 2 years now. 2 years since that afternoon, when everything changed between me and my stepson. And the truth is, it wasn't what I did that scarred me the most. It was the fact that he saw me. And, from that moment on, nothing between us would ever be the same. I didn't mean for it to happen. I wasn't trying to cross a line or to lose myself like that. But when you live in a house where love feels cold, where you feel invisible most days, sometimes even a little warmth can pull you under. That was me, living like a ghost in my own home. My husband, Ethan, was always away, buried in work. And Adam, my stepson, he was grieving too, in ways I didn't understand. We were both lost. Just in different ways. And then came that day. That one moment. He walked in. He saw me, and everything shifted. There was no going back after that. If you think you'd never end up in a situation like this, believe me, I used to think the same. But sometimes, all it takes is a single moment when your heart's too empty and someone looks at you like you still exist. And the choice you make next can break everything. This is my story. And if you're ready to hear it, I'll tell you. Just know, once you hear it, you won't forget it. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Because some stories stay with you long after they're told. My name's Sarah. I'm 38. I've been married twice. My first marriage, well, let's just say it ended when I finally understood that love doesn't mean losing yourself. Ethan, my second husband, he was different. Steady. Reliable. A man who always had a plan. A future. A job that paid the bills and more. But sometimes, the things that look good on paper feel the emptiest behind closed doors. Ethan worked in corporate. Always traveling, always tired when he came home. His laptop was his constant companion, even at dinner, even in bed. When I spoke to him, I could see it, that glazed look in his eyes. Like my words barely reached him. And slowly, I stopped trying. Our home was beautiful. Suburban. Big windows. Polished floors. A kitchen where I used to dream we'd cook together. A living room with a couch that felt colder every year. I poured wine for one most nights. I made dinners that went untouched. And I talked to walls more than I talked to my husband. Then there was Adam. 19. Ethan's son from his first marriage. His mother had passed 2 years before I entered their lives. I came into a house already carrying ghosts. Adam, he was polite, reserved, always kept to himself. He barely spoke unless spoken to. But grief, it leaves marks you can't always see. And sometimes, when I caught him watching me from across the room, it wasn't a teenager's gaze. It was a boy who had seen too much loss, searching for something safe. At first, I thought nothing of it. We were two people trying to survive under the same roof. But days turned to weeks, and something shifted. Ethan's absences grew longer. The space between Adam and me grew smaller. And those glances, they lingered. In a house filled with silence, sometimes the smallest moments feel deafening. I never imagined it would be him, the one who noticed when my hands shook pouring another glass of wine. The one who offered to carry the groceries when no one else cared. The one who would help me, and the one I'd end up betraying in a way I'll never forgive myself for. But when loneliness starts to wrap around your heart, you stop seeing lines clearly. You start craving light wherever you can find it, even if it blinds you. It began with a shattered glass. That morning had felt like so many others. The kind where the house hummed with quiet, but not peace, just absence. Ethan was gone again. Another business trip. Another empty space in our bed. Another day where my voice would echo against cold walls. I tried to distract myself the way I always did, little tasks. Cleaning. Rearranging things that didn't need rearranging. Pouring another glass of wine before noon, pretending it didn't mean anything. I reached for the top shelf. The good glasses, the ones we used when we used to host dinners, when we used to smile. My fingers brushed the stem, but the glass slipped. I heard it before I felt it. The sharp crash, the sudden sting. Shards everywhere. A thin red line blooming across my palm. I froze. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the mess. The floor glittered with tiny knives. My heart thudded against my ribs, and I realized I was alone. I started to shake. Out of shock, out of exhaustion, maybe out of something deeper. Then, footsteps. Fast, deliberate. Not Ethan's. Adam's. He came in, eyes wide, taking it all in at once. No words wasted. He crossed the room in 2 strides and took my wrist, gentle but firm. "Sit," he said, voice lower, steadier than I'd ever heard it. "I'll clean it." And I let him. I sat down on the kitchen stool like a child, my breath shallow, watching him move. He fetched a cloth, wrapped it carefully around my palm. His hands were warm, too warm. His touch too careful. And then, the cloth pressed against my skin, but his fingers didn't move away. They lingered. A second too long. Just enough to make the air between us hum with something I didn't want to name. I looked up, and there he was, watching me. Not like a boy watching a stepmother. Not like family. No, like a man watching a woman. And in that breathless space between us, something passed. Unspoken. Dangerous. I should have pulled my hand away. I should have broken the moment like that glass on the floor. But I didn't. I held his gaze instead. And in that small choice, everything began to unravel. That was the first moment. The one I should have stopped. But I didn't. I told myself it was gratitude. He was kind. That's all. I repeated it like a prayer that night as I lay in bed, alone again. But the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about it. His eyes so steady, so aware. The warmth of his hand, lingering just a moment too long against my skin. And as much as I tried to push it away, I couldn't. Why was I craving this? From him? From Adam? Of all people. Was it just loneliness? Or was it something darker? I lay there with the ceiling staring back at me, every breath loud in the empty room. And in that silence, my mind betrayed me. I remembered how it felt to be seen. Not as a mother. Not as a wife. But as a woman. A person. And the guilt, it poured in like waves. I hated myself for thinking it. For feeling it. But the ache, it stayed. The next morning, I avoided his gaze at breakfast. I stirred my coffee so long the spoon clinked against the cup in frantic rhythm. But when I looked up, he was watching me. Not with anger. Not with confusion. With the same quiet, unsettling knowing. And that look, it hooked something deep inside me. Something I hadn't felt in so long I'd barely recognized it. I convinced myself it meant nothing. I told myself we would move past it, that it was a fleeting moment, a slip born of grief and solitude. But then, I started noticing things. He lingered longer in the kitchen. Sat closer when we watched TV, when we happened to be in the same room. His eyes would find me, hold me, a second too long. And worse, I began to let him. I stopped moving away when he stood too close. I stopped closing the door when I knew he might pass by. I told myself I was imagining it, that it wasn't real. But in my heart, I knew better. I was dancing on the edge of something I couldn't name, couldn't admit, couldn't stop. And deep down, a part of me didn't want to. Weeks passed, and what should have been a passing moment began to weave itself into the rhythm of our days. Small gestures became patterns. Patterns became something harder to ignore. It started so simply. He began helping me with dinner. At first, it was innocent enough, grabbing ingredients, chopping vegetables. But then, one evening, as I fumbled with a knife, hands shaking more than I'd like to admit, he stepped behind me. Without a word, he reached out, placed his hand on mine, guided the blade with slow, careful movements. I could feel his breath against my neck. The room seemed to narrow, the sounds fading into a pulse that thudded in my ears. I should have stopped him. I should have moved. But instead, I let the moment stretch. I told myself it was practical, helpful. But the truth was, I was craving it. Craving touch. Craving to be noticed. And he noticed. It didn't stop there. I caught him watching me as I bent to the oven. His gaze lingered on the small of my back, my legs. When I straightened and met his eyes, he didn't look away. And neither did I. I told myself we were both grieving. Both lost. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about grief anymore. Then came the rainy afternoon. I remember it so clearly. The sky bruised with clouds. The house heavy with silence. I'd been folding laundry, the motions mechanical, tears slipping down my cheeks before I even knew they were falling. The weight of everything, Ethan's distance, the hollow house, my own shame, it pressed against my chest until I couldn't breathe. I sank to the floor, back against the dryer, sobbing quietly into my hands. And that's when I heard him. Footsteps. Slow. Steady. Then he was there, kneeling beside me. "You shouldn't be alone," he whispered. And before I could answer, his arms were around me. Too long. Too tight. I should have pushed him away. I should have screamed, moved, done something, anything. But instead, I melted into it. My body betrayed me, aching for the comfort, for the warmth I hadn't felt in so long. I let my head rest against his shoulder. Let my tears soak his shirt. And in that moment, something shifted. It wasn't mother and stepson anymore. It wasn't grief or kindness. It was something far more dangerous. Later, I told myself it was comfort. Nothing more. But we both knew. We'd both felt the shift. And there was no going back. That night, I drank. Too much. Ethan was away again. Another city. Another late-night email saying don't wait up. Outside, the storm had started. Thunder rolled through the sky like some warning I couldn't quite hear. Inside, it was worse. The kind of quiet that echoes louder than any sound. I poured glass after glass of wine, not to numb myself, but to feel something. And then I sat there, alone in the dark kitchen. Rain battering the windows. My heart heavier than the bottle in my hand. Tears slid down my cheeks before I even realized they had come. Tears for a marriage slipping through my fingers. Tears for the shame twisting inside me since that afternoon in the laundry room. Tears for the woman I didn't recognize anymore. And just when I thought I'd drown in it all, I heard them again. Footsteps. Soft, hesitant. Then Adam appeared in the doorway. No words. Just those eyes, watching me like I was breaking in front of him. Without asking, he crossed the room, took the glass from my trembling fingers, and set it down. "You can't do this alone," he said. Voice so gentle it made my breath catch. Before I could speak, before I could explain the thousand things tangled inside me, he was beside me. Then, his hand reached up. His thumb brushed away a tear. So soft, so tender. And then it moved, tracing the line of my cheek. I should have stopped him. Every voice inside me screamed it. But I was so tired, so hollow, and his touch felt like the only thing keeping me upright. I closed my eyes instead. I told myself it was comfort. Just one more second. Just one more breath. And in that second, everything shattered. His lips brushed mine. Soft, trembling. Not demanding, not forceful. Just a desperate, fragile question neither of us had the words to ask. And worse, I kissed him back. Only for a second. But that second destroyed us both. When I opened my eyes, he was pale. Frozen. I searched his face, panic rising in my throat, but before I could speak, he whispered, "I'm sorry." And then, he ran. I sat there, paralyzed. The storm outside roared louder. But inside me, there was only silence. A silence that would swallow us whole. Don't miss what happened next. Subscribe now to stay with this unfolding story on Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The house was different the next day. Quieter. thicker somehow, like the very air had changed. Every sound felt sharp, chairs scraping, silverware clinking, doors clicking shut. And Adam, he avoided me. No more quiet footsteps behind me in the kitchen. No more lingering in the doorway. No more glances that felt like questions. Now, there was distance, a chasm neither of us knew how to cross. Then Ethan came home, suitcase in hand, voice bright as if nothing in the world had shifted. "Miss me?" he asked, kissing my cheek out of habit more than wont. And in that moment, I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him everything, beg him to see the woman falling apart right in front of him. But I couldn't. I nodded, smiled, cooked dinner as if my heart wasn't shattering inside my chest. The weight of my guilt nearly crushed me. Every word I spoke tasted like ash. Every glance toward Adam burned through me like fire. And Adam, he wouldn't meet my eyes. Meals were silent. The spaces between us stretched wider with every passing hour. I told myself over and over, you must act normal. You must keep this buried. But inside, I was unraveling, thread by thread. I watched him from across the room, searching for something, anger, shame, anything that might tell me how to fix what I had broken. But all I saw was a boy carrying too much and a woman who had given him even more to bear. Subtle things gave him away. He stopped helping in the kitchen, stopped offering quiet comfort in the small ways he once had, stopped sitting near me during those long, heavy evenings. And yet, sometimes, I'd catch him watching me, eyes full of something raw and tangled, torn, hurting, like he wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. And I was just as trapped, afraid to reach out, terrified to let go. We both carried the same wound now, one we'd cut together. I hated myself. Every breath, every glance, every beat of my heart reminded me of what I had done. I had betrayed Ethan. I had betrayed Adam's trust, warped a bond that should have remained pure, untouched. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The guilt sat in my chest like a stone I couldn't swallow. But, and this is the part one can barely bring myself to say, part of me ached still, ached for the warmth of that moment, for the closeness we had shared, for the feeling of being seen, truly seen, by someone, when I had felt invisible for so long. And that ache, that longing, terrified me even more than the guilt. What kind of person am I? How could I crave something so wrong, so broken? How could I want to feel again what should never have happened in the first place? I would stand in front of the mirror, searching my own eyes, hoping to find the woman I thought I was. But all I saw was a stranger, a woman who had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. Every time I looked at Ethan, my stomach twisted. Every word I spoke to him felt like a lie. I watched him sip his coffee, answer emails, tell me about his trips, and I wondered, if he knew, would he even care? Would he even see me then? And Adam, sweet, broken Adam. I couldn't face him. I couldn't erase the look in his eyes that night when he whispered, "I'm sorry," and ran. Part of me wanted to tell Ethan, to lay it all bare and beg for whatever scraps of forgiveness I could find. Part of me wanted to sit down with Adam, to make sense of what had happened, to somehow make it right. But another part of me, the cowardly part, knew the truth. Some things, once spoken, can never be undone. Could I confess this to Ethan? To Adam? To anyone? Or should I bury it deep inside me and carry the scar alone? Live with the hollow ache of what we'd done and the fear of what it might still become? I didn't know the answer. I still don't. But every day, I wake up with that question burning inside me. And some nights, I still feel the ghost of that kiss, haunting me, reminding me of the woman I became when no one was watching. Have you ever crossed a line not because you wanted to betray, but because you were drowning? Because for one fleeting moment, it felt like the only way to breathe again? Would you tell the truth, lay it bare, knowing it might destroy everything? Or would you live with the silence? Let it settle deep inside you like a stone you'll carry for the rest of your life. I still don't know what the right answer is. I wake up every morning asking myself the same question. So tell me, What would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm still searching for an answer myself. And if this story stirred something in you, if it reached some quiet place in your heart, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The next story might feel even closer to home. Adam still lives here. We speak, but never of that night. I still set his plate at the table, still fold his shirts with trembling hands. But I no longer meet his eyes, and he no longer lingers in the kitchen, no longer reaches out with those small, careful gestures. The space between us, it's quieter now, but heavier somehow. Some days, I wonder what he remembers. Other days, I wonder what he tries so hard to forget. If you're standing at the edge of loneliness, pause. Some comforts heal, yes, but others leave scars you can't wash away. And some scars, they never fade. If you see yourself in this, if you feel the pull of something dangerous, something that seems harmless, but isn't, be careful. Some moments can't be undone. And living with their weight is a kind of drowning all its own.